Hello, everyone. Welcome back for spring break and welcome to a brand new episode of For the Stands. I'm your host, Tommy Romano. And as you can see, we've got some new set pieces here. I'm really liking the vibes. And as you might be able to tell, I am solo today. This is taking me back to where the first show all started out on WERW. I used to broadcast alone, talking my face off about everything pop culture, everything new music, everything stan culture. And I can't wait to get back into that with you. It's a bit of a shorter episode today. Everyone's coming off of the spring break vibes. I'll tell you something. I was walking to filming today, and who do I run into? And I'm not joking. I'm running into the Kid Leroy. The superstar, he had a #1 song this summer, and he was on campus today giving out tickets to his Syracuse concert tonight. So I saw him. He signed some autographs. He caused mass pandemonium on the quad today, and he ended up chilling on the Newhouse steps for a while. So fun pop culture fact just happened today on the way in today. But that's not what I'll be discussing. As you all know, I just talked about spring break wrapping up. Everyone's coming back for the final stretch of the semester. Before that, I was at South by Southwest. That's where I was able to spend my spring break hitting up conferences, movie premieres, and then my favorite part of it all, the concerts at night. So I'm going to go over some of my favorite moments and what makes South by Southwest for the stands. My first time going to South by Southwest was actually last year. I went with a couple of friends and we did an Airbnb. And we decided to go for the entire week and stay for a little bit of the movie premieres as well. And that was an incredible experience for me. I got to see Donald Glover up close, talking about all things Atlanta Season 4. That was really cool. He even talked about his music, as he is double performer, also going by the name Childish Gambino. Hearing him put his director hat and his producer hat on was super interesting. And I know he has another TV show that just dropped called Swarm. This premiered at South by Southwest. He did not attend, but I found that the TV show is really interesting as it kind of delves into stan culture of all things, what we talk about on here. But the casual Donald Glover horrific twist always happens, and it makes it kind of a freakier journey that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I watched it on my flight home. A couple other highlights for me from the movie section of it all was the movie Bottoms, starring Rachel Sennott. The reason that this kind of ties into stan culture is because the score and the music from the movie was composed and produced by Charlie XCX and George from the 1975. The two are not only dating, but are taking over the movie world by storm as this new composer duo. I thought that's super cool, especially because the movie is an A24 comedy, so I think that that vibe fits right up Charlie's alley, and I'm so excited to see the final outcome from all of that. So I guess a little bit more of an intro on South by Southwest. It's been going on for dozens and dozens of years now, and it's a festival conference that not only encompasses music, but TV, film, technology, a wide array of things, especially looking towards the future. That's why I've loved my experiences there, and I felt that it's been a really interesting process going back every year. Like last year, it was super focused on NFTs, cryptocurrency, all the stuff that made my head spin. And this year, believe it or not, that stuff didn't have as big of a presence over there. So I wonder how that trend went. Clearly, your answer lies in there. Some other things that I experienced was a lot of giveaways, a lot of free swag. That was really awesome. Everyone gave out a black tote bag, I feel like, though. So maybe we could have a little bit of coordination over who gives out what. I ended up with like 12 black tote bags in my carry-on suitcase on the way home. But I'll be using them all, I am sure, being back on campus. Now I'm going to get into what everyone's probably waiting for. I'm going to talk all about the music. What else do we come here for? I had the honor of getting to experience some super big South by shows during my time there. Artists like Shawn Mendes, Remy Wolf, Chloe of Chloe and Haley, Coffee, and really big players, especially in the pop scene. I loved those performances, and they were obviously in front of larger crowds than some of the shows in Austin, but I thought that when it came down to it, South by is more focused on smaller artists or even independent artists. So when larger artists would come to play, it seemed like they were really focused on the performance and the music, as opposed to the spectacle of it all, which I found to be a super interesting kind of change of pace after being in Los Angeles for a semester and kind of seeing a lot of spectacle. Something I did take away was that it felt like a lot of my plans revolved around large artists. This kind of comes into play. Shout out to Bill Wordy, my professor. He wrote this really interesting piece on South by Southwest and if it's worth it for small or independent acts to even go anymore. You get paid very minimally and it's expensive to lug your band all the way to Austin, Texas for a week, play your butts off, go to bed at 3, 4 a.m. every night, wake up and do the same thing again and leave. Sometimes you leave with a loss. I find this interesting because when it came time for me to plan South by, I was kind of gravitating towards those larger acts, and I didn't really find the time to go towards the smaller ones. And that's kind of the point that Professor Wordy was making in his piece, was that it seems like it's worth it if you already have an established following and you're just trying to keep marketing that, but it seems like there's better options to market yourself if you're a brand new artist. And I kind of agreed with that. So shout out to you, Professor Wordy. I know you'll appreciate me plugging your articles in my show, but go to fullratenocap.com for more of that. He is awesome. More on South by Southwest, though, I did get a chance to see some up-and-comers that I was already on the radar of and I wanted to check out. This includes an artist who I've mentioned on the show before, the episode with Jordan Therese. We talked about Spill Tab. I got to see Spill Tab in the front row. I did the barricade, the whole 9 yards, and it was a blast. Spill Tab, I learned from someone in the crowd, had a really interesting story on how she came up. She was going on tour with Gus Dapperton, who is a pretty established indie artist, especially in the late 20-teens that he was touring. She went on tour with him as the merch salesperson and would set up the merch booth every night and talk to fans and really had no musical role on the tour until she went to Gus with some songs that she made and the two decided to collaborate. Next tour around, he brings her on as an opening act and the rest is history. She has a great EP out now called Bonnie and she's been releasing singles including Splinter and Creme Brulee, which I think are super strong, and I'm very excited for new music. And now you'll see her opening up for Sabrina Carpenter across the entire nation. Sabrina's been blowing up online and has been for years, Disney star, and I think she has one of the best opening acts in the game. So big ups to Spill Tab. I cannot wait to see what they do next, and I'm super excited for new music. Kind of in a similar vein, I got to check out Ren for Short, who I have been a fan of for about 2 years now. Shout out to my friend Sydney for kind of putting me on. But I got to check out Ren, me and Sydney, went right up to the front, barricade again, and had a blast. Through that show, however, it was pouring, and it was also 2 p.m. So the fact that we were there at all, I think really shone to Ren, and she saw that her true fans were out there at a concert that not many other people found the time to go check out at 2 p.m. in the pouring rain. But I think that she's a super strong performer. I cannot wait to catch her on tour again. I had the chance to in Los Angeles, and I am just a big fan of the kind of sound she's bringing back. She's really a fan of the New York scene, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and the Strokes, and kind of that alt scene that kind of gets lost in the grander picture of indie rock when you just don't think about it for a long time. But I'm excited to see that that's turning around and coming back. I had a lot of great experiences like that where I got to see smaller artists and I got to see some that I hadn't really heard of but knew that they had a big following. This was the case for Genesis Owusu, who is an Australian artist who recently got acclaim from Pitchfork for releasing some of the best new music off last year with his most recent album. He came out at about 7 p.m. in a black dress over a red suit and had 3 backup dancers in masks. And it was a really interesting performance, one that I can say that I'm not used to. But this was another instance of letting the music speak and then I think they did a good job of working the spectacle along with the music and making sure that the music was the main focus. I thought that Genesis was electric. My favorite song from the entire night was I Don't Need You. It had this chanting chorus that he even gave his backup singers and dancers microphones to be able to chant the chorus, and he ended the song in all a cappella, letting the audience do a lot of the heavy lifting. I thought the crowd work was like legendary. I thought it was super interesting. There was even a point where he jumped into the crowd and had everyone get down onto the floor, and he was taught, and then like when the next song kind of came in, he had everyone jump up and down and kind of do a whole dance. But it was a really fun, really interactive set, which I hope that more people kind of take from, especially leaning into the future. I want to see more choreo and more dance. Speaking of this also happened when I saw the band Michelle, who I was a fan of before and even had the chance to work with on another project called For Your Rotation on TikTok. And we did a collaboration playlist where they provided some soundtracks for a summer barbecue, and we released that. I finally had the chance to see them perform live, and it was nothing short of incredible. They have really great pop music. They are certified for the stands. They are up next. And they brought back the choreo, which was something that I am always a huge advocate for, and I'm just a big fan of it. I think it's a blast whenever we get an artist who brings in the choreo and some synchronized movements. The beats were fun, and I had a really good time at the show. My standout Michelle song definitely has to be The Peach. That's a really fun song, really bouncy, really light, and just over like 2 minutes, so it's very digestible. Now, something I also want to talk about for South by is, when it comes down to it, this is a festival where you are on your feet, walking around, and you go home late and you get up early. This can take it out of you. And I feel like this goes for lots of festivals. I know there are a lot of music festivals coming up in the summer, and all throughout the year there are a lot of music festivals. So especially for the stands, I think it's important to kind of go over some of my tips and tricks for music festivals. I am such an advocate for a clear bag with a portable charger. You will not know how many times I had needed a portable charger in the middle of the day, and I couldn't get back to my hotel for one reason or another, and it just totally saved my behind, and I'm so happy I had it. Always great to have some extra granola bars, something to keep the blood sugar content, and it's also very important to pace yourself. I was with a lot of friends who were really into the night scene going into the morning scene. And I was very interested in getting to bed early, getting appropriate sleep for the next day. And what I found is that I had a lot of success in my time and how I invested it versus burning out very early. This could be the same for a 3-day festival or even one that's just during the day. I think it's super imperative to be feeling the same way you are on Friday as you are on Sunday, and kind of being able to know that you had fun, but being able to enjoy it all because you're feeling good. I think that's super important. And knowing where you're going to stay, this I can relate to my trip to LA as well. I wasn't crazy about where I was staying, and I think that affected my trip. This time in Austin, I absolutely loved the location. I loved the room. I loved the folks. I had a great time where I was staying this year. And I think that also aided into my enjoyment of the whole festival. So my advice would be to get your crew, get your location, get it all figured out, because the sooner you do that, the more exciting time you will have to be able to prep for the event. One of my favorite artists, I would say, did do a performance at South by Southwest. And out of all of the exciting ways for it to begin, it began with every other concert the evening had to offer getting rained out. So when this happened, I was very nervous that I wouldn't be able to get in to see this artist, but lo and behold, I was soaked head to toe when I finally got in to see Remy Wolf. If you know me, and if you know me from what I just described as my other experiences for the festival, you know that I like to be at the barricade, I like to be singing every word. But a torrential downpour had me very comfortably sitting in the balcony, pretty close to the front, and I kind of took a seat back and relaxed and enjoyed the artist that is Remy Wolf. She is incredible. If you don't know or aren't familiar, here's a taste of Liz by Remy Wolf. She is a great artist, and I was so excited that I got to see her live. Something that I love about her is she's so little. She's got to be like under 5'3", but she'll come out and she has this big hair and she's super animated and her voice is out of this world, unbelievable. When I saw her in concert the first time a while back, she shared to the audience that she had bronchitis and proceeded to give what I thought was one of the best shows ever. This time around, I saw her without bronchitis, and now I know what the best show ever really means coming from her. She was wailing, screaming, hitting all these notes that I never even imagined in the song, and I really got to feel that she loved her music and had a better grip on it than even her biggest fan in the room. I loved being led on that musical journey by her. Her performance was animated, loud, fun, interactive, and just a blast. I know that she has a huge following now, and she'll only continue to get bigger, but I am hereby putting the For the Stand stamp of approval next to Remy Wolf. I am so excited to see what she does next. Most recently, you could have caught her on tour with Lorde, one of my favorites. She did the European leg for that tour, and they had a great time. Something I love about Remy is that she opens her show with a song that isn't hers every time. And the last time it was Because by the Beatles, and this time it was In the Summertime by Mungo Jerry. So some old picks to kind of get the ball rolling, but I think she does a great job of creating a really zany vibe, and her visuals were out there and over the top, but not distracting, which I found super awesome. Oh, man. I had a blast this time at South by and last time, but I think my favorite experience of all would have to be when I got to see Japanese Breakfast. Japanese Breakfast, I would have to say, before South by last year, I didn't know who they were, and now I just put them as my favorite band, period. If you're unfamiliar with Japanese Breakfast, my favorite song is Be Sweet. Check that one out. That's definitely the most approachable and the one that will make you a fan. Then they also have some songs for the saddies out there. The Body is a Blade, Paprika, really excellent songs. And Michelle, the lead singer, has the most incredible voice. She's also an author as well. She recently wrote Crying in H Mart, which is doing incredible in the book world, and it recently got picked up to be a movie directed by the White Lotus's Will Sharp. So a lot of exciting things going on with Japanese Breakfast, and I was kind of surprised when I saw her on the lineup for South by Southwest last year, but it was to my delight as I ended up following her around and seeing her perform 4 times once I saw her the first time and fell in love. Something that the band does that really brings it to the next level for me is it works music and spectacle into the same kind of wheelhouse, and they open the show by her coming out and banging this huge gong, and that like really sets the vibe off. And then throughout the entire first couple songs, she always goes back to the bong. Oh my gosh, the gong. Throughout the first couple songs, she always goes back to that gong and bangs it really loudly and gets the crowd moving again. And I just loved that crowd control, and it also fit well with the music. So I thought that that was a really cool element. Her singing, especially her high notes, sound the same on the recording as they do live, and I was blown away by that. I love it when you can tell that the band really loves each other, and that was the vibes that I got, especially from the lead singer and the guitar player. It was when I left South by Southwest that I discovered that the two were in fact married, so that explains that. Shout out to Japanese Breakfast. I have tickets to see her at Radio City Music Hall this fall. I am so excited, and I would say that I wouldn't have discovered this musical love of mine if it wasn't for South by Southwest, which I really have to thank. Because of the school that I go to, Syracuse, shout out Cuse, I have been able to attend these past years on them. And I think that it's such an important opportunity that I'm glad they offer, and I hope they continue to do it, because I have found some of my favorite artists. I networked. I went to panels that talk about the same things that we talk about in classes, but I was leaning in. And I really think that it's a great place for especially young people and students to do that. South by Southwest overall, it wasn't a commercial, but it feels like it is now. Shout out to South by Southwest. I recommend you check it out, or just check out the YouTube videos online and see some of those electric performances that I've been talking about. But like I said before, today is a shorter episode than most. I hope you enjoyed my blabbling. and I had such a blast being able to take you through my trip at South by. Hopefully I'll be there next year. I hope it all works out. I got a shout out to my Austin crew, Annika and Blake, who really helped me out there once I was situated. Everyone I met out there was super cool, and I had a total blast. Overall, I'm enjoying this season of For the Stands. I hope you all had a very restful break, and I'll catch you in a few weeks for the next episode. And I think there'll be a guest that you'll all love. But I'm done teasing. I will see you soon. Have a great week, everyone.